want to write better chord progressions on guitar but you don't know where to start, I think I have a couple of tips that might help you out. This is kind of the method that I use for making progressions for my own songs or just playing guitar in general. So tip number one is just to start with basic chords. Start with simple chords, and then you can kind of go from there and make it more interesting and more intricate. So for just an example for this video, I'm going to start with the chord progression of C minor to B flat to A flat. And I'm just going to start with that and then gradually build this into a much more interesting chord progression. So that's obviously super simple just to kind of get you started. So from there, tip number two is to take those chords and just kind of add or remove notes. Just kind of move your fingers around and find new chords, find different sounds that you like from those chords. So for example, on this C minor, I'm just going to remove my ring finger and that changes the sound, or remove my pinky, that makes it a minor 7 technically, and you can just kind of play around with it. Just kind of move your fingers around and just kind of figure out different sounds that you like and ones that will serve your progression well. With adding or removing notes, you can also remove the note and then bring it back in with a hammer-on, or the opposite way with a pull-off, just kind of playing with it, adding these little flavorful things into the chord. So for my own chord progression here, I'm going to use that either minor 7 with the pinky off, or removing my ring finger for, I'm not exactly sure what that chord is called, but that chord, because it sounds really cool. And then also for this B flat here, I'm going to just bar across to make that, I believe that would be an add 11. So I'm just playing the major shape from the A string on the E string, and it sounds really cool. And then I'm going to leave that last A flat the same. So just kind of a basic, more interesting version of the chords that we started with. Now just a note here, I don't think that you have to know exactly what you're playing all the time to play something cool on guitar. You can absolutely play something really cool without having a clue as to what it is. So it's fine to start with that, but I also do think that it's a good idea to, once you come up with something that you like, figure out what you're actually playing. You could search up a chord finder online, you can put in all the notes on the fretboard, and that'll allow you to kind of visualize all the names of the notes and what chord you're actually playing, just so that you can get a better understanding of what it is you're playing and why it sounds so good, instead of just, oh, this sounds good. It makes it a little bit more interesting and you can learn a little bit more from it. Tip number 3 is to add another section onto this chord progression. So far we have 3 great sounding chords, but if you just loop those on repeat, that'll get kind of boring. So I like to just start with an A and B section. So make this the A section, and then just go through that C minor scale, which is the key that we're in, and just pick a couple of chords that sound good with those chords that we're starting with. So for example, I like the sound of just keeping the first chord the same, that C minor, then going to an E flat, and then up to a C minor. I like that sound a lot, especially with that first section. So now we have an A section and a B section. And of course now with that second section, we can go back and do the same thing as we did with the first section, with just adding or removing notes at random at first, and then, you know, kind of learning what they are and how they all relate to each other. But just starting with the same chords and then playing those chords with just changing the notes around. And just see what you come up with. Just kind of mess with it. And not every note you change has to be purposeful at first. You can just kind of experiment, and eventually you'll find just kind of notes that change that you like. And of course you'll learn what those chords actually are as well. So now that we've got that A and B section with some different notes thrown into those chords, we can play through it all and just see how it sounds. Another thing to mention is that when you're playing through these chords, you don't have to just play the chords. You can find other notes in the scales to just kind of throw in here and there, tastefully of course, but just kind of walking up to the next chord or just playing an extra note here and there will at least generally sound pretty good. Now a fourth tip here is just to experiment with playing differently with your right hand. I was playing just with my fingers, just kind of plucking all the strings there, but you could play with a pick, you could just strum it, you could palm mute it and make it kind of drivey. You can play it all sorts of different ways, different rhythms, different time signatures even. Just kind of experiment with playing it differently with your right hand, and that will really give it a different feel. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from this video. If you think I missed anything important in this video, or you have any tips of your own you'd like to add to this list, let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more videos from this channel, you can click right up here on the screen for some of those, and I'll see you over there.